Reverend John Andrews, who was also a member of Franklin's American Philosophical Society. After establishing York Academy, Andrews moved to Philadelphia, joining Franklin's University of Pennsylvania, eventually becoming its fourth provost. The man behind York College is associated with both outcroppings of Franklin's Leather Apron Club. York College also shares a synchronistic connection to Francis Bacon. Bacon's boyhood home was so significant to him, he repurchased it as an adult, despite not living there for decades. And its name? York House. Now we have 3 points on our map: York College, High Point, and F&M. Note that they are on the same line. And even more interestingly is that High Point, which opened in 2007, 220 years after the 2 colleges were established, is exactly located at the midpoint, which is also saying that the line segment between the 2 colleges is bisected by the 40th parallel. We're going to switch gears for a moment. Throughout Rosicrucian literature of the 15 and 1600s is an enigmatic concept known as the Invisible College. In 1618, a Rosicrucian document, written in Latin, titled Speculum Sophicum Rotostoricum, or the Mirror of the Wisdom of the Rosy Cross, was released. Within this manifesto is an illustration of the Invisible College. Like all things Rosicrucian, the Invisible College can have different meanings depending upon context. Using the broadest definition, the term Invisible College means not perceptible to sight, and a community or guild. It wasn't until the 1800s, well after the Rosicrucians used the term, that college took its contemporary meaning of a body of students and teachers within a university. So, Invisible College means a community that cannot be seen. That is a very broad net. Institutions like England's Royal Society, whose founders plainly state it was based upon the writings of Francis Bacon, and the American Philosophical Society, which Franklin created as the American version of the Royal Society, meet the definition of the Invisible College, as do secret societies like the Freemasons, Priory of Sion, and the Rosicrucians. But keep in mind, the Rosicrucians were mystically inclined and interested in communication with non-physical beings. From this lens, Invisible College potentially implies something much deeper, but we are not ready to go there yet. Let's just simply accept that Invisible College has many different connotations. Returning to the area of the Susquehanna and the 40th parallel, let's continue to look for colleges. To the north of High Point is Elizabethtown College. E-Town, as it is known, was not founded in 1787, but in 1899, and its founders do not have a clear connection to the American Philosophical Society, Freemasonry, nor Benjamin Franklin. But it does have an odd synchronicity which connects to alchemy and possibly Rosicrucianism. E-Town's first president was named Isaac Newton Henry Bean. Isaac Newton, the scientist, is known to have been an alchemist, a suspected Rosicrucian, and the 24-year president of England's Royal Society, the physical manifestation of a concept written about by Francis Bacon. But perhaps there's something even more significant in this location as it relates to our investigation. Adjacent to the Elizabethtown campus is the Masonic Villages, the retirement home associated with the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania, located in Philadelphia. Due to proximity to one another and correlation to both Freemasonry and Rosicrucianism, we will treat Elizabethtown College and the Masonic Villages as 1 point, bringing the total to 4 points on our map. Let us return to the image of the Invisible College. Since this is a Rosicrucian diagram with unusual imagery, it is a safe assumption that it is coded. Now let's decode the Invisible College in similar fashion as we did with the John Smith map of Virginia. Within steganography, the art of hiding secret information in public documents, the key to success is placing the message in such a way that the general public would completely overlook the obvious. Within the illustration, with so many interesting details, the best place to hide the message would be the subject itself, the structure of the Invisible College. We will decode the Invisible College by converting the 3-dimensional drawing into a schematic. A schematic is an abstract representation of an actual object. It is not meant to look like the subject, but demonstrate its layout. Because this is a building, the schematic will be more similar to an architectural drawing, specifically a floor plan. A floor plan is the 2-dimensional map of a building, as if you were looking straight down on the structure. This may be a little confusing if you are unfamiliar with technical or architectural drawings, but it is really quite simple. Don't overthink it. We begin with the centerpiece of the drawing, the hand of God. Above the structure, in the clouds, are 4 Hebrew letters. They are known as the Tetragrammaton, and it is the name of God in the Hebrew Bible. The use of the Tetragrammaton also reflects the Rosicrucian connection to the Kabbalah, the esoteric discipline of mystic Judaism. More on that in a bit. Coming out of the clouds is a hand, with what looks like a string on the index finger, attached to the finial on the apex of the Invisible College structure. The finial is located on the exact center of the building, and we represent it with a single black dot. The finial tops a cupola, a small dome that sits on top of a larger dome. The cupola has a circular base, so it is represented as a circle, with a dot in the center for the finial. This is the view from above the structure, looking straight down. We now add a larger circle, representing the circular edge of the larger dome which the cupola sits upon. Note that all is centered on the dot, or finial, which is connected to, or pointed by, the hand of God. We have created the upper half of the schematic of the Invisible College. Now, let's focus upon the lower half. The base of the structure has a square perimeter, so it is represented by a square. There are 3 circular watchtowers in the corners of the structure. Each of the 3 watchtowers is represented as a circle. To keep the schematic visually simple, the square is removed, replaced with lines that connect the watchtowers. The 90-degree relationship between the watchtowers remains visible. Now, we combine the upper and lower halves to create the complete schematic. Within Francis Bacon, the herald to the New Age, Bacon's technique of hide and seek is explained. Simply put, clues are hidden across many Rosicrucian works, and they are meant to be taken together. Keep in mind, the Invisible College diagram and the John Smith map were published only 6 years apart. We now combine the 2 clues, the location of the John Smith map and the schematic of the Invisible College. Considering the center point of the schematic represents the finial, or highest point on the structure, it makes sense to align it with High Point Scenic Vista. As you can see, it is a perfect match. Let's hold off on the "what does this all mean" question and return to High Point. High Point is connected to Jamestown via the John Smith map, and High Point opened for public use on the 400th anniversary of the founding of Jamestown. But it goes deeper. On the same day as High Point's quiet opening, a grand celebration occurred in Jamestown. Queen Elizabeth was in attendance, as was a former U.S. president, a Supreme Court justice, and many other celebrities. Why? Certainly because Jamestown played a significant role in the history of both the United States and Great Britain, but the number 400 also has something to do with it. Within the Kabbalah, the mystical Hebrew discipline is a practice known as Germachia. Germachia is a simple code where each letter of the Hebrew alphabet has a numerical equivalent, and each number holds meaning. The last number in the Hebrew alphabet is Tav, and it has a value of 400. So from the Kabbalistic perspective, which is the view of the secret societies that guide the planet, 400 represents completion. The British Empire began at Jamestown. At its peak, it was the most powerful empire the planet has seen since recorded history. And now, its 400-year cycle to completion is being recognized. That is why so many dignitaries were in attendance, particularly Queen Elizabeth. But that is only half of the story, as 400 is also the symbol of new beginnings, because as one cycle ends, another begins, on into infinity. As the completion of the Jamestown cycle was memorialized, the seed of the next cycle was planted at the secret location identified at the start of Jamestown, 400 years earlier, the Susquehanna River at the 40th parallel. That is a lot to sit with, and therefore now is not the time to discuss the purpose and use of High Point. But just know that there is one.